Hello and welcome back to the Douglas Fir Association. Only this time we won't be talking about Douglas firs and smell those trees. We're going to be talking about something altogether entirely different, and yet still within the same sphere of storytelling, as we are still following David Lynch through some journey. And we're going to be talking about his second feature film from 1980. I think it was 1980 on the dot. The Elephant Man. So my eyes are currently welling up with water because of my allergies, but it's not too dissimilar from how I was at the end of this film. Um, First of all, you hadn't seen this before, right?
Nope, nothing.
Okay. So what kind of expectations did you have going into this film then?
I knew it was quite renowned. So I knew bits. I didn't know anything about the story. The
Oh,
only
okay.
images I'd ever seen were of the sort of the blanket mask sort of thing, that striking image. Um, and I've heard it referenced a lot over the years, specifically in comedy stuff, really, which
Okay.
is quite quite on point, really, for what the story's about. But yeah, so I literally knew nothing going in other than the actors that were in it, and obviously it's directed by David Lynch. So
Yeah, I'd seen bits of it when I was a teenager. I know my stepmom was watching it, and she was really taken with it. But I couldn't say that I'd seen it for me, even if I had seen a film when I was a teenager, or maybe not even that. I think I might have been like 9 or something, 9 or 10. It was
mm,
1980. I needed to check that it was 1980. Um, so this is one and actually we'll start this off. So I picked this film for us to watch, and my reasoning was let's get that out of the way.
yeah,
So shows what the fuck I know. Now I knew it's good. I knew it was gonna be good. I knew it was even gonna be great, but I wasn't prepared for one of the best films I think I've ever seen.
yeah, same.
And maybe that was like my prejudice towards the film in a weird way was actually turned out to be a good thing because it completely surprised me in that regard. But it wasn't, when I say get out of the way, it wasn't like I didn't want to watch. It wasn't like I was like couldn't wait for it to be done with. But I felt like I kind of viewed it as the one normal David Lynch film, and a very sad story. I knew that for
Yeah.
sure. Depressing. I thought, okay, well, let's get that kind of weight off the journey first up. And I guess that's why I haven't watched it. Like I had the Blu-ray about 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and I think I started watching it, and I just I can't get into this because I could tell how heavy it was going to be. But anyway,
See, I was expecting this to go the other way. I was thinking this was going to be quite a one of Lynch's weirder works.
huh,
I didn't, because from what I've heard over the years, obviously only ever knowing really Straight Story and Eraserhead. Um, I've always heard that Straight Story is Lynch's only. It's not necessarily normal because there's still quirky bits in there, but I think from what I've heard over the years, that Straight Stories is his only normal film. So I was like, well, okay, so Elephant Man must be, one of his more obscure and you know that sort
yeah.
of thing. But again, this just from what I've heard over the years, so it's just going off what other people have said to me in the past.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I know that Inland Empire is the only one I haven't seen. Now that's the last one for me,
Yeah,
and I've seen things and I've heard things. It's a weird film from what I understand. So knowing all that, I would say The Straight Story is definitely his most quote unquote normal film. There are little Lynchian bits in there, but definitely his most straightforward, film. And this is kind of that as well, but it does have. I wasn't prepared for the more interesting choices he made, and I'm specifically thinking of like the pipes, like just the weird, like the slow tracking shots of the pipes and the clanging and the
yeah,
sound, the industrial era, and that just it colored in so much of the time period, and also
yeah,
just like I don't know, just a strangeness that rang true to the strange story, I guess. So yeah, there was that, and there was a few bits and pieces like the opening credits with the elephants, and
yeah.
actually it reminded me of spoilers for anyone who's listened to this and hasn't seen Twin Peaks. yeah, just in case. The sequence where Maddie is killed in Twin Peaks,
Yeah,
where it's the I don't know how you call it. It's like a ghosting effect, and it's kind of the slow motion screaming, and like it's the scene where Leland and Bob are into. It's like a weird kind of effect, and it's
yeah,
unsettling, and the slow motion sound of someone screaming. That to me was like all over that opening sequence, and then so there's a few bits and pieces, but the majority of it is a very straightforward kind of period drama. Like a very kind of like a prestige kind of like great actors, this historical story and stuff. Amazing cast, really.
yeah.
And I had read that Anthony Hopkins was not too enamored with David Lynch, and kind of tried to get him fired as well. He wasn't quite happy with working with this young American upstart, which he apparently later, I think he wrote a letter to Lynch apologizing for everything.
Okay.
Yeah, and he felt bad about it afterwards. But yeah, so that was just one thing that I'd read as I was kind of poring over all the special features and just looking up online, which I tend to
Yeah.
do when I really love a film. I'll go deep on that stuff. Um, so yeah, I mean, all I feel like talking about is just how much that ending impacted me. But that would be jumping straight to the end and kind of let's leave that emotional release at the end of the film until the end
Yeah.
of this discussion, I think. But yeah, what other impressions did you have as you were starting the film? 'Cause we were talking a little bit as the film was playing. We both
Yeah.
watched it at the same time, but not much. We kind of settled into it a bit, and there was one point where you said like, "I feel," I forgot the
Yeah.
terminology, something like, "I'm starting to feel bad for being a human" or something to that effect.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know
Exactly that.
what I mean?
I think it was within like at least 15, 20 minutes into it, and I was already starting to feel like,
We
what are we?
suck.
Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, 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 and it's only got worse as time's gone on. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem to end, does it? And the stuff in this film is just horrible. But there's like with all in Lynch's work, so there's spacklings of goodness in there, and it's yeah, it's just such a daunting film to watch. It really is, and it does show like the worst in people, I think, but
Yeah,
also the best as well.
yeah, but I really like that, and it's is it the character? I want to get the guy's name right because he was also a real person, Anthony Hopkins' character. He was really interesting to me because at the beginning he's this doctor who finds John Merrick, Joseph Merrick. They later found that was his real name, and brings him into the hospital so he can study him and kind of show him off, and it's kind of like a feather in his cap, like, oh, look at this strange, curiosity that the doctor's brought in. So for him, it's a completely selfish thing.
I think that was the scene that I text you on. It was the scene where he's in the cage in there, just studying him. It looked like getting him to turn around and looking at all his deformities and stuff. That was like,
Yeah,
what are you doing? Do you know what I mean? This is a person.
Treves was his name.
Yeah,
And I'd say probably near the end of the film, there's a sequence where he's just sat alone in his house and he's just thinking, am I a good person? Am I a bad
yeah,
person? I don't really know. And he makes moves to kind of rectify how selfish he was in the beginning, I suppose, and
yeah,
accommodate this man and help him in some way. And so there was a great arc for that of the way that they treat him. But it is very much predicated on the fact that John Merrick, well, we'll just refer to him as John Merrick as that's the name of the film. Um, he is intelligent,
yeah,
and so there's also a bit of like, well, so if he wasn't intelligent, then maybe they wouldn't have really given him a second thought.
yeah,
But the fact
yeah,
that he's a well-read kind of person is that kind of. But one tiny aside, I was looking more into the real story because I do. Whenever there's a film I watch that's about a real event, I always want to know how true is it. How much
yeah,
does it toe the line of authenticity? Really does fit closely. One major thing I think I found was that when he's off in Europe and he has to find his way back,
yeah.
that happened before they'd like housed him at the hospital and stuff.
Oh, well,
So
okay.
they switched around. I think it works better for the film. I think that kind of
Yeah,
drama towards the end. Um, but it was really nice to read actually that like he was really taking well care of in real life. Like they even would organize trips for him. He could go on to like a private carriage and a train and go out to the country. He did that a few
Oh,
times just to kind of, they knew it wouldn't be easy for the public to be around him, so they, would kind of shield him a bit, but just make sure he could have like nice experiences. Like the theater story was true, like at least that he went to the theater and got to experience it. So,
yeah.
as you say, it does make you think how horrible and you know despicable humans can be. But it is
Yeah.
it's the balance of that too, which is what really makes the film for me. I think is showing that balance and the capacity also to change your perspective with the character of Treves and even the
Yeah.
guy who runs the hospital.
Yeah. And the whole scene where he's running through the train station, he's being chased by everyone. And he's just cornered. And it's just like a witch hunt for no reason, other than the fact that it just looks different. Like everyone's just that mob mentality. Like one little thing happened, and then everyone started chasing. It's like just because he looks different. Do you know what I mean? It's and like the whole witch hunt, and then he's just stood there at the end saying, "I'm not a monster." Do you know what I mean? It's just such a poignant moment in the film, and one of the best scenes. But I think a little tear rolled down as well. Then at that point as well, that was I think one of the first times, and then obviously at the end. But yeah, just such a strong moment.
Very powerful moment.
Yeah,
On the Blu-ray, John Hurt was talking about how difficult that scene was because they shot that in like a real location, and he was very wary of like the public being able to see him and stuff.
yeah,
Maybe getting a taste of the actual feeling of it and stuff. And he also said that the toilet, like the point where he turns around and like tells
yeah,
everyone to back off. Like you said, it was like this disgusting urinal, like Victorian era, like um, and it was kind of a difficult moment for him, but yeah, it certainly rings really emotional that part because I think he knocks down a little girl accidentally, and
that's it.
that
Yeah,
that riles people up even more and stuff. And you know, the there's a there's a Rush song that I really like. It's called Witch Hunt actually, and it's
yeah,
like I think the lyrics something like "Quick to judge." I forget the lyric, but it's really point. I'll get the lyrics. So I want to mention that, but it just shows you like how quickly people can just pounce,
yeah,
and because he's kind of been portrayed as so helpless throughout the entire film up until that point, it's such a you just it's like a gut sinking moment. So when he finally is cornered, and you're like, what the fuck? What are they gonna do to him? And then he's just like, nah, and he just like stands up for himself. So fucking like it's yeah, that's it's a great
yeah.
moment, really really great moment.
Well, there's a scene before that, earlier on where all the people come round to his home, where he's staying, and they're all coming obviously past the window, and they all come into the house, and they all knock him
Mm.
about, and so I think like that was the last bit of straw for him, aside from obviously being carted away into Europe. But like that whole group that attacked him, I think like he thought like this is it, he's not taking it anymore. So yeah, I was really glad that he stood up for himself. And everyone just backed away because that's just the cowardly thing, isn't it?
Uh, I remember the lyric. It's quick to judge, quick to anger, slow to understand.
Yeah,
And there's more to it than that, but it really just sums up that kind of yeah that mentality, which is just captured so brilliantly in that sequence. The cinematography is great, and I don't know if you've dived into special features that much yet, but the Lynch talks about. I think it's near the beginning where you see Anthony Hopkins walking through like it's like this smoky back street, these big brick buildings and everything, and it was like proper like Victorian era stuff. And then within like a few years, that was all gone, like new
yeah,
developments. So they really got there at the right moment to capture just a little bit of that authenticity of like the feel of London back in those days and stuff.
yeah,
But I think the production design and everything was felt really authentic. I spoke to a friend of mine
yeah,
in work, and he said to me he saw it on TV when he was a kid, and he thought it was like a film from the 40s,
yeah.
which says a lot. I think it kind of has that,
Absolutely,
and
yeah,
the
yeah,
black and white helps for that as well. I think.
absolutely. Looks stunning as well. The 4K, ridiculously good.
Yeah, yeah. We both watched the 4K version.
This was another thing from the 4K actually that now makes sense to me, and it was the iconic building that he makes in the window of the
Yeah,
church you can see from his window. So yeah, that was actually like a really nice addition to it now, I think. Um, so yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, I was moaning to you a few weeks ago about that because it
Yeah,
it means that the Blu-ray case doesn't sit flush against the shelf.
yeah, it's almost bows, doesn't it? So it's like not straight on the shelf.
But yeah, now that I've seen the film, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that was another nice thing. I read that that's also true, and they have one of his little models still
Oh wow,
preserved. Yeah,
that's cool.
that's another thing I found weird. Just to go off track a little bit is they used his real the real cast of his head to make the makeup for this film to the point
Wow,
where they'd never let anyone take it out of the museum, but they did for the film. But apparently they could feel the hairs, his actual hairs, embedded in the plaster.
wow,
But they kept like his torso, his limbs, his head, living tissue, his organs.
Jesus.
Seems a bit excessive to me. I don't know.
Yeah,
I think the organs were destroyed during the Second World War, but the skeleton remains. And I think there was some sort of some people were pushing to have the skeleton buried finally, and I think
yeah,
that there was some
yeah,
story that it had. I'm not sure, but because it was almost like he was still being kept on
yeah.
display
Exactly.
a
It's
hundred years later.
still
You
the
know what I
freak
mean?
show, isn't it? Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And I think it was the producer of the film on the Blu-ray does a Q&A, and he said that, I think he's been on display for we've got all we need to get out of that skeleton. Maybe let's just bury
Yeah,
it. And the performance of John Hurt, again, it's just one of those things where you're like, okay, well, it's the Elephant Man, it's John Hurt. It's going to be a great performance. You take it for granted. I think I do, and did, but I forgot it was him. You know,
yeah,
and John Hurt to me is very recognizable in look and sound, and obviously there's the makeup, but I just think the voice, what he did with the voice, it was incomprehensible from the man playing this part. And there was
yeah,
one little scene, I can't remember when it was. I heard John Hurt, and I was like, "Oh, there he is," and I remembered that it was
yeah.
John Hurt. But
I
like,
heard the same thing. Yeah,
right, and nothing's perfect, but
yeah,
it's very rare for me to just completely forget who's playing the part, and it
absolutely.
just
Yeah,
and it's not just you know the voice, or it's the physicality and the demeanor, and he just brought a real powerful humanity to the part, I would say.
yeah, absolutely.
And across the board, like even the small kind of minor characters, I thought were really well performed. Um, and Anthony Hopkins, I think that it may be a performance that might be overlooked because he is a very stoic character who doesn't show too much emotion outwardly. But there are these moments where there's a lot behind the eyes. I think that it's kind of
Yeah,
a really that kind of makes a performance. The subtle ones are the ones that get me more sometimes too, when it's you really believe the motivations and
yeah.
I don't know, just the subtle motions. I guess I thought he did a really great job too.
It's not often I hope for a Hollywood ending, but I was really hoping his mom was just going to come in and like just come back to him. I know it wasn't going to happen, but it's just
Yeah,
because that story was so sad and his life was so sad. Even though it got better towards the end, it's I just wanted some happiness for him, and I think him finding his mother would have been like just the best. Well, maybe not
sure.
though, because she gave him up. But I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just wanted some happiness for him, I guess.
of course. Yeah, that's understandable. And another thing I like is how it kind of it's like a one step forward, two steps back. Like you finally get that moment where they say, okay, because there's a lot of politics around, like, should we even be providing a home for this man when there's nothing we can do for him, we can't cure him. Oh, that's another devastating moment when John Merrick says to Anthony Hopkins, Treves, there's something I've been wondering for a while now, can you cure
Mm,
me? And he just straight up says, no, I don't believe we can. And he's like, I thought not. Oh, fucking hell.
yeah,
Whew. But yeah, so then they finally, there's all sorts of stuff that goes on where he's going to stay in the hospital and have a home and be kind of cared for and stuff, and that's so nice. And then like he gets visitors and things, and it's like, oh, it's so nice. But then what would you call it, the matron, or the woman who kind of runs the hospital. She's like, they're just, these people come to visit him. They just want to, go up him and stuff. They don't really care about
Yeah.
him. And so suddenly you care about him,
Yeah.
And so there's that, and then his old no, who is it? The porter who kind of gets all these drunks in after hours and literally through the window again, almost like he's on display. And so it's just like just when you think he's getting a break, he's still being just. And part of me understands it. Like it's this incredible thing. Like it's. I hasten to use the word disgusting, but like compared to what we're used to, it's like wow, and it takes you aback. But then you're also intrigued by it. At least I am. I've always found that kind of, deformity just
Yeah.
interesting and kind of, the unknown can be kind of unsettling sometimes. But that's kind of the point. Is that there's like the young nurse who sees him for the first time and she just screams her head off.
Yeah. There's the quote. One of the quotes is, "People are frightened what they don't understand," and it's just such
Yeah,
a poignant quote, isn't it?
it's about moving beyond that and trying not to view as other and to try to accept, which is it's very well done. I just think like the pacing of the film is so good. Each individual moment just seems to be continually building up the story until the very powerful ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the music I thought was really nice too. And there was
Yeah.
an issue with the composer. He was a little bit salty because he'd composed all this music, but Lynch wanted to use this classical piece for the very final scene, and the composer's not too happy about it. But ultimately, they went with that, and I think it really accentuated the power of that final moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, how are you feeling with that final sequence? And
Yeah. There were sort of echoes to it, weren't there? Earlier on in the film.
foreshadowing for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of led you there, but you didn't know it was going to happen. But it kind of led you there. So by the time it came, I was quite happy that he was going through his own will, and that he could finally do what he'd always wanted to do and just lie down and go to sleep. But it was just such a tough scene to watch, and you just wanted so much for him, but he was ready, I think, and I don't know, it was such a hard scene to watch. I definitely had some tears flowing. Um, but yeah, it was a very tough watch. Really sad.
And that was another thing I was like instantly wanting to know was how did he die? Was it
Yeah,
that, or was this just kind of the slightly Hollywood ending? But no, that is how he passed away. He was getting worse.
yeah,
He was 27 when he died, but like it wasn't going to be a long fruitful life. It just was going to get worse for him and stuff. And they found him slumped over in the morning, and they figured that he'd made the experiment, was the quote, of just lying down, and that seems to be like that probably was the case.
yeah,
Maybe was, maybe wasn't, and I think for the film to portray it as a choice, I think was I don't know, it's light at the end of the tunnel almost.
yeah,
While very sad, it's just very powerful. Again, like the last thing he says is it's finished. Of course, he finishes the little model, but it's also this kind of like, okay, now I'm probably ready. And he looks over at the wall, and there's the painting of the person, lying down sleeping. And that's I was like, oh my god! And like I should have seen it coming, right?
yeah,
And it's I don't know. I don't know how another filmmaker would have portrayed it, but it's Lynch really takes his time. And
yeah,
there are many moments in this film actually where there was sequences and scenes where people are talking about something, and I could have imagined the scene going on for another couple of minutes, but it just fades to the next moment, and it really it kind of okay, that's that bit, and not in a bad way. I just feel like it was
yeah,
very well paced, but that when it needs to, it takes its time, and that I was in bits. Like that is the most I've ever cried at a film, and I was pretty down the week that we watched it, and that probably contributed to it, but
yeah,
it was the build up of it and him slowly getting up and making the bed, pulling the pillows out of the corner, and it's just oh man, and the music as well added so much to it.
I could just imagine the Laura Palmer music over the top of it. The heightened
Oh God,
emotional
yeah.
song.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have had quite the same effect.
Probably not, no, but so at this point I'd like to intercut into the discussion as it's winding down and we're talking about the ending scene of The Elephant Man. There's no real elegant way to do this, but I figured this would be a good a spot as any to kind of jump in and kind of preserve some of the voice notes that me and Matt sent each other on WhatsApp. Literally, as the credits were rolling on The Elephant Man, it was 1 a.m. in the morning, 6 minutes past 1 to be precise. And we had a few kind of back and forth voice notes. My voice was very you could feel the emotion in the cracked kind of hoarse tone of my voice. And so I thought it'd be kind of nice to just kind of preserve that and cut out a lot of the rambling and the blathering, although there's a fair bit of that too. And so just yeah, that'll be this little kind of mini bonus section, and then we'll get back to the main discussion. I just thought it might have been a nice way to kind of preserve that moment that is kind of special to me, and hopefully you'll kind of get a feel of the emotion of the evening when we watched The Elephant Man. Enjoy.
Jesus fucking Christ, man. I've just finished. I like a depressing film. Oh God, that takes the piss. But, oh man, that's ridiculous. It looked amazing as well, the 4K. Oh, what a masterpiece. Amazing. Can't believe I've waited all these years to watch that. Crazy. Amazing film, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Oh God, I haven't listened to your clip yet. I feel like it's like one of those obvious things that you should have just seen it coming, right? Like, of course, they've put emphasis on the sleeping. It's gonna kill him. I just didn't see it coming until he said it's finished, and I realized where it was going. I have never cried like that at a film ever in my life. Um, I've been having a rough couple of days mentally. Just one of those fucking depressions that is literally about nothing. And I just have to push through it, but I know that contributed, but at the same time, fucking hell. I do truly think that's one of the best films I've ever seen. And yeah, still pretty choked up over it. And I just think it was so powerful that it was his choice. I just didn't see that coming for some reason, and so it just the whole time he was preparing the bed, the fucking wheels came off, man. I was fucking blubbing. Anyway, I gotta try and get to bed. It's too late. But I'm glad we experienced that together. That was a special one.
Yeah, I teared up at the end as well, mate. Fucking Jesus Christ. So I've not seen much Lynch stuff, as you know, but that set the bar way too fucking high. Yeah, I'm totally agreeing. It's one of the best films I've ever seen. Just ridiculous performances in that one. Just like the cruelty of people is ridiculous. And it's like, that's not even like a time specific thing. Shit like that's just got worse with like the internet and shit. There's definitely going to be time for reflection on this one, I think, mate, if we leave it 1 or 2 days just to let it sit. And then we'll be fresh back to it when we do our talk. But the scene when he's in the train station and he's cornered and he just says, "I'm not the elephant man, I'm a human." It's just so fucking powerful. And yeah, like the decision that he's going to die on his own terms when he's been dictated what he's got to do his whole life is just so fucking powerful. And like, humanity fucking sucks at times, but like, I said this on my video the other day, that like there's sprinklings of humanity in there, and there's, for as much bad there is, there's good. So this film displays that perfectly as well. Oh man, definitely give me one to think about for a few days. This one is.
But it is quite remarkable how that classical piece of music fits so well with it.
Yeah.
And that's something I love, is kind of taking bits of music that weren't specifically written for moments, a visual like that, and then it kind of fits. Sometimes you find these things fit so well, and I think Lynch is such a visual filmmaker. Not that that final scene is like visually incredible or anything, but I don't know. I just think it's nice when that works, and it's almost like a happy accident when that piece of music really just it just fits everything about that moment for me. I think, I don't know.
Yeah. Was this Lynch's first feature?
Second, it was after Razorhead.
Oh, after Razorhead, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah. I remember you saying because he showed it to Mel Brooks, didn't he?
yeah, and
Razor. Oh no, somebody showed it to Mel Brooks, and Mel Brooks was like, "Yeah, this is the guy."
yeah, he's like, you're a madman. I love you. Let's do it. So Lynch credits Mel with so much of his kind of
Yeah.
career in a way, because that was a huge jump from Eraserhead, which is an
Mm.
independent film that he spent 5 years making with his friends.
Yeah.
And now here he is. And a lot of the English crew were a bit wary of him because he was just a young American director coming in. And what he made before, this weird film with the baby and all this stuff. There's a good bit in the producer Q&A where he talks about the whole story of how that came together. And he was sat a few rows in front of Mel Brooks screening Eraserhead, and he said he was just sweating bullets, thinking, "Oh my God, Mel Brooks is going to kill me! Like, he's just going to be like, what have you?" He's just really sweating it. And then he turned around, and Mel Brooks was just like, "Yeah, no, I get it. It's great. It's brilliant. Just like I understand it completely."
The guy in the radiator completely makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that is like, I just I don't know. When I hit 30, I found myself being more emotionally affected by films. I thought, fuck, is this like my 30s? Is that like a switch that gets flipped? I don't know. Is it just watching more films? I don't know. I don't know where the tipping point was. But tearing up for me is a very easy thing to do. I get quite easily affected. Or the little lump in the throat, sometimes in a wrestling match I'll get kind of the little goosebumps and stuff. But to actually I was almost sobbing, I've never quite had that before. And so I'm kind of glad that I watched it on my own, because I know that if I was with anyone else, even Connie, I would have held back. And so I enjoyed being taken to that emotional place that I never have to that degree before. The closest is probably The Last of Us Part 2, where I was just like tears streaming down my face going, no. But so that was a special thing for me. And a great film. That's pretty much it, I suppose. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to really kind of cover. I feel like it's one I would love to watch many more times, but I don't know if I could handle it. And, I've seen films that are sadder than this, I think, or more distressing, Yeah. But it's something about just the innocence of him that just makes it so. And also viewing it from the view of a parent as well, to imagine your child going through a life like that and being abandoned and taken advantage of, and very difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the scene when he was taken to Treeves's home and met her wife, and she kind of, great mini performance from her. She's barely in the film, but that one scene where you can tell she's trying to keep it together and not cry because it's affecting her so much, but she can't hide it, and it's just
I liked it as well where he had all the pictures on the mantelpiece. And then when he got to his room and he finally got it all set up and, made it his home as such, he had all of his pictures on his mantelpiece as well. So I think there's a line he says to him, isn't it? Is that where you keep?
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you keep your pictures? And he said, yes.
Right, yeah. This is so much he wouldn't have known.
Yeah. And then you just see a picture in his room of all the pictures in the same place.
Yeah.
It's a really nice moment, I thought.
Definitely.
It's quite subtle, but it's really nice.
Yeah. I forget which part it is, but there's a bit where he's talking, John Merrick, and there's some emotion to it, but it's not like in the train station where he blows up or anything. But the tear streaks down his face. I just thought that was really cool. I don't know. I find sometimes the single tear moment can be quite corny at times, but that one felt really natural and kind of
Yeah.
when you can't quite keep control of your emotions and it kind of breaks away from you, which would be totally understandable for someone like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it, I guess. Oh yeah, so I was gonna say also, like, part of me, for real, like, I'm not trying to be dramatic or anything, but part of me feels like I'd never want to watch it again.
Mm.
Because if I wasn't taken to that emotional place again, it'd be kind of like, oh, you know, not that I want to, but like, I don't know, it was a special. That's all I'm saying. It was special for me. So
I
yeah.
actually found myself wanting to Google John Merrick after watching it.
Hmm.
And then I thought to myself, well, am I not just the same with the people that are going to look at him? Do you know what I
For
mean?
sure. Yeah.
I kind of got that same feeling of curiosity and
Yeah.
the morbidity of it. Is that a word? Morbidity?
Um,
The
I don't think so.
morbidness of
No, but
it.
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
The morbidness of that end. So I kind of get it because I've certainly had moments the same myself throughout my life where it's something like that has drawn your attention.
Yeah.
So not saying I'm perfect, certainly not, by no means least. But I found that, so after watching that, and just it made me more conscious of the fact that I was then going to look at this person
Mm,
because I wanted to see what he actually looked like.
yeah.
Um, not to make fun or take the piss. It was more just because I wanted to see how realistic it was to the film, and if there
Yeah.
wasn't any pictures of him, I didn't know if there was or
Yeah.
not. But yeah, it kind of made me feel like, yeah, it made me feel a bit shit because I'm like, I was going to view this person where it's just a person. Do you know what I mean? It's just because he's got some deformities, it doesn't make any difference. He's still a human. He's still contributing to life.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's just really sad, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. I didn't look for pictures, but I just looked for specifically the death. I was intrigued to see if that was a choice, you know. And I guess you can
Yeah,
never really know based on that. But I like that the film kind of portrays it as such, and the very trippy ending with the kind of the star field and the kind of vision of his mother, which is a nice thought that maybe that was his dream as he kind of let
yeah.
himself slip away. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it was a
I
really special film.
I off thought, throughout during the film, there's the stage actress. Can't remember what her name was now. The one
No,
that comes to visit him.
played by Anne Bancroft. I don't know the
Yeah,
character's name though. Yeah.
I actually thought that might have been his mom when halfway through when she came, but no, nothing
Yeah,
materialised of it. So,
yeah,
but yeah, it just seemed like she was at the instant that she got in there, she was just like wasn't shocked by him or nothing like that. I thought maybe that she might have been his mom, but
yeah,
no, but it didn't come to be.
yeah. See, that's one that I'm going to get into. I'll try and do this very briefly, but like, have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
No, I've seen bits.
I mean, it's spoilers. Sorry, like
Yeah, so good.
it's the Sharon Tate murders, and at the end of the film, they don't happen because Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio they kill off the Manson family members, and it's this shocking moment, and it's just like, wow, what a lovely thought that this young woman, pregnant at the time, didn't get murdered, and but it made me feel uncomfortable because I'm like, that's not what happened. Like, she
Mm,
did die, and I get it, but so I'm just thinking in my head, like, if they were to end this movie with his mother coming to him and stuff, it would be really nice to see in the movie, but I think also maybe not the right
yeah,
thing to do based on it being such a true story kind of adapted to the screen kind of thing.
yeah.
So
It's only finding Inglorious Bastards with the blow up Hitler in the
that's an
in the
exception.
theater.
That's an exception. I think.
We'll take that one.
Yeah, fuck Hitler, man. I don't give a shit for that. Like, yeah. God. Anyway, right. So we've got a few minutes left on our Zoom call because the fucking thieving bastards who want 16 quid a month aren't getting it, and it'll probably be best for us to wrap this up instead of starting a new call. So that's the Elephant Man. I think we both were pretty well impacted by it. So now we just need to know where we're going next, which will be over to Matt and his pick for the next film that we watch.
Okay, so drum roll, please.
Mm-hmm.
We're going down a road. We're going on a journey. Not the one that you might think. Lost Highway.
Interesting. Very
I've
interesting.
heard.
No, yeah,
Is that one of the two that you thought it might be?
it's interesting. I got a message on my phone earlier. Let's see if I can play it for you. Dick Laurent is dead. There you go. That's the opening of the film. I had a feeling. it was either going to be that or Blue Velvet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dick
I
Laurent
was
is
going.
dead. The opening moment of that film that sets everything off on a very
I,
dark path indeed.
I was going between this Eraserhead and Blue Velvet.
Mm.
So yeah, it was pretty close. I didn't pick Blue Velvet just because I still wanted to stay away from the Twin Peaks-ishness. So now you
Yeah,
said it was quite reminiscent of Twin Peaks.
definitely. Yeah.
So I think we stay away for that for a bit, and then as we build perhaps towards the end, if we haven't already picked it by then we'll come to
Yeah.
Blue Velvet and then back into Peaks maybe. Or, I don't know. But yeah, I almost went for Eraserhead, based on the fact that we'd been talking about it a lot, and I really do want to revisit it. But I've heard that many good things about Lost Highway at this point that I'm just really intrigued to watch it. So I'm really looking
Awesome.
forward to it. Have you only seen it the once?
Yeah, but I really enjoyed Lost Highway quite a bit, so
Lovely.
I'm quite keen to get back to it. But I might want to get the 4K now. See what happens. Anyway, so we got to get kicked off here. So thank you all for watching. I would say let us know your thoughts down below, but we're not getting any comments really. So, but it's nice to do this with you, especially with Elephant Man. I thought that was a nice, poignant film experience. And
Absolutely.
next one will be a lot different, I can tell you that much. So, thanks for listening or watching, and we'll see you next time.